now and say, "I'm listening." Growing up, my family wasn't religious. We didn't go to church or talk about God at home. As I got older and built my career, I became more and more certain that success came from hard work, intelligence, and determination, not from prayer or faith. I was vocal about it too. I remember once telling a reporter that prayer was just talking to yourself and laughing about it. I regret those words now. Life was going exactly as I planned. I had everything society tells us should make us happy: success, money, recognition. But there was always something missing, a hollow feeling I couldn't explain. I filled it with more work, more projects, more distractions. I convinced myself that was just how life was. You achieve things, you keep busy, you ignore that empty feeling inside. Then something happened that shook my world completely. My old friend Thomas, who I'd known for 40 years, got sick, really sick. The kind of sick doctors don't have answers for. Thomas wasn't just any friend. He was the person who knew me before any success, who stood by me when I failed, who told me the truth when I needed to hear it. He was also a man of deep faith, something we'd argued about good-naturedly over the decades. I visited Thomas at his home after his diagnosis. His family was there, his wife of 38 years, his 3 grown children, his grandchildren running around the backyard. Despite what he was facing, there was a warmth in that house, a peace I couldn't understand. Thomas was sitting in his favorite chair by the window, thinner than I remembered, but with that same gentle smile. "I'm sorry," I told him, not knowing what else to say. "Don't be," he replied. "I've had a wonderful life. I'm ready for whatever comes next." I was baffled by his calm. "How can you be so peaceful about this? Aren't you angry? Aren't you afraid?" Thomas looked at me with such kindness. "I've never been alone a day in my life, Elon. God has been with me through everything, the good and the bad. That doesn't change now." I nodded politely, but inside I was thinking how sad it was that my brilliant friend was comforting himself with fairy tales. That's how certain I was back then. As Thomas's condition worsened, I visited whenever I could. I watched how his family surrounded him with love, how his church community brought meals and offered help without being asked, how he faced each day with a grace I couldn't comprehend. There was something happening in that house that my worldview couldn't explain. One evening, after a particularly difficult day when Thomas had received more bad news from his doctors, I found myself alone with him. The house was quiet, his family having gone to bed. He was tired but didn't want to sleep yet. "Would you read to me?" he asked, gesturing to a Bible on the side table. I hesitated. This was not my territory at all. But how could I refuse? "Any particular part?" I asked, picking up the book awkwardly. "Psalms," he said. "Open it anywhere in Psalms." I randomly opened the Bible and began reading. I don't even remember which psalm it was now. What I remember is what happened as I read. Thomas closed his eyes, a peaceful expression on his face. And something shifted in that quiet room. There's no other way to describe it. The air felt different, like we weren't alone anymore. I kept reading, my voice growing steadier, the words on the page suddenly feeling less like ancient text and more like something alive. When I finished, I looked up to find Thomas watching me with a knowing smile. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked quietly. I couldn't lie to him. I felt something. I don't know what. He reached out and took my hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were clear and bright. That's how it starts. Just noticing there's something more, something beyond what we can see and touch. I drove home that night with my mind racing. I told myself it was just emotion, just the intimacy of the moment, just my sadness about Thomas. But deep down, I knew it was something else, something I'd never experienced before. A week later, Thomas took a turn for the worse. The doctor said it wouldn't be long now. I canceled everything and went to be with him and his family. The house was full of people coming to say goodbye, bringing food, sharing memories, sometimes singing softly together in the living room while Thomas rested. Late that night, when most visitors had left, Thomas's wife Sarah asked if I would sit with him while she got some rest. "He's sleeping peacefully," she said, "but I don't want him to be alone if he wakes." I sat by his bed in the dim light, watching my old friend breathe slowly. His Bible was still on the nightstand. Without really thinking about it, I picked it up again and began to read quietly. Not for him this time. He was deeply asleep, but for myself. I needed something. Comfort, wisdom. I wasn't sure what. As I read, that same feeling from before returned stronger now. A presence. A peace that made no logical sense given the circumstances. I read until my eyes grew tired, then just sat in the silence, looking at my friend's face. "It's okay to talk to him, you know," came Thomas's voice suddenly, startling me. His eyes were still closed. "I thought you were asleep," I said. He smiled faintly. "Just resting." "But I mean it. It's okay to talk to God. He's here. He's always been here, waiting for you." I wouldn't know what to say, I admitted. "Just be honest," Thomas whispered. "That's all any of us can do." After he drifted back to sleep, I sat there in the quiet room, and for the first time since I was a small child, I prayed. Not out loud, not with any fancy words, just in my heart. I don't even know if it qualified as a prayer. It was more of a question, really. "Are you there?" That's all I asked. Are you really there? What happened next is hard to put into words. It wasn't dramatic like in the movies. No bright light, no voice from the sky, just a sudden overwhelming certainty that I was not alone. That I had never been alone. That there was a love surrounding me, surrounding Thomas, surrounding everything that was bigger than anything I could comprehend. I sat there with tears rolling down my face, feeling known in a way I'd never experienced before. All my success, all my achievements, all the recognition in the world had never made me feel seen the way I felt in that moment. It wasn't about what I'd done, or what I owned, or what I knew. It was just about being loved, completely, exactly as I was. Thomas died peacefully the next day, with his family around him. At the funeral, I watched as hundreds of people came to celebrate his life. Person after person spoke about how he had changed them through simple kindness, through consistent love, through unwavering faith, that he shared not with judgment but with joy. It struck me that Thomas had achieved a kind of immortality already, not through buildings with his name on them, or headlines about his accomplishments, but through how deeply he had loved and been loved, through the impact he had on human hearts. In the months that followed, I began a journey I never expected to take. I started reading not just the Bible, but books about faith from all perspectives. I had conversations with people of different religious backgrounds. I spent time in silence, in nature, in reflection. I haven't joined a specific church. I don't claim to have all the answers, not even close. What I do have is an ever-deepening relationship with God that has changed everything about how I see the world and my place in it. I look at my children now and see not just my kids, but souls entrusted to my care. I look at sunrise and see not just atmospheric physics, but an expression of creativity and beauty. I look at other people, even difficult ones, and try to see them as God sees them, with compassion and patience. This journey has changed how I live in practical ways. I spend more time with my family, really present with them, rather than distracted by work. I've reached out to people I've hurt in the past to ask forgiveness. I've become more generous, not just with money, but with my time and attention. I still work hard, still have ambitions and goals, but they don't drive me the same way. I'm motivated now by gratitude, by wanting to use whatever talents I have to make life better for others. Some of my old friends think I've gone soft. Some business associates are confused by decisions I make that aren't focused solely on the bottom line. Some fans of my former outspoken atheism feel betrayed. I understand all those reactions. I would have had them myself a few years ago. But here's what I've learned. Having an open heart doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger in the ways that truly matter. Recognizing that you're not the center of the universe, that you're part of something larger than yourself, doesn't diminish you. It expands your capacity for joy, for meaning, for real connection. I think about my friend Thomas often, about how what seemed like the worst thing, his illness, his suffering, became the doorway to the best thing, my awakening to God's reality and love. How sometimes our most painful experiences can lead to our greatest growth if we're open to what they have to teach us. I've come to believe that God doesn't cause our suffering, but God is always present in it, always working to bring healing and wholeness even from the most broken situations. I've experienced this in my own life in ways both small and profound. There's a couple in their 80s who live near me now, John and Martha. They've been married for 62 years. When I first met them, I was struck by how they still look at each other with such tenderness, how they hold hands while walking slowly through the neighborhood, how their faces light up when talking about their children and grandchildren. One evening over dinner at their modest home, I asked what their secret was, how they'd maintained such love through all life's challenges. Martha smiled and said simply, "We never forget who brought us together." That's what faith gives you. A foundation that doesn't shake no matter what life throws at you. A sense that your story is part of a larger story that makes sense even when you can't see the whole picture. A knowledge that you are loved, not for what you achieve or accumulate, but simply because you exist. I don't know exactly what God is. I don't claim to. Whatever ultimate reality exists, whatever consciousness or presence or spirit infuses everything, it's beyond full human comprehension. Our words, our concepts, our understanding all fall short. But I no longer doubt that God is real, that God is love, and that opening ourselves to that love is what gives life its deepest meaning. If you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond, listening to this, you have a wisdom that comes only with living through decades of joy and sorrow, triumph and loss. Maybe you've known God's presence your entire life. Maybe you've questioned or doubted. Maybe you're skeptical even now. Wherever you are on your journey, I just want to say, it's never too late for a new beginning. Never too late to open your heart. Never too late to experience the love that has been waiting for you all along. The most beautiful thing about God's love is that it doesn't depend on us earning it or deserving it. It's already there, already complete, already surrounding us. We just need to notice it, to welcome it, to let it transform us from the inside out. I think of people who feel they've made too many mistakes, lived too many years without faith, strayed too far from God to ever find their way back. That's simply not true. The story of every faith tradition includes people who found or rediscovered God in the evening of their lives and experienced profound peace, purpose, and joy as a result. I was wrong about God. I was wrong to dismiss what I couldn't immediately understand. I was wrong to think I had all the answers. And admitting those mistakes has opened me to the greatest truth, the greatest love, the greatest adventure I've ever known. I remember a moment about a year after Thomas passed away. I was sitting in my backyard early one morning watching the sunrise. My youngest son, just 4 years old, came outside in his pajamas and climbed into my lap. "What are you looking at, Daddy?" he asked sleepily. "The sunrise," I told him. "Isn't it beautiful?" He looked at the pink and golden sky for a moment, then said with complete certainty, "God must have the biggest paintbrush ever." Out of the mouths of babes. Children understand intuitively what many of us spend decades trying to rediscover, that beauty has purpose, that creation implies a creator, that wonder is the appropriate response to this magnificent world we live in. That simple moment with my granddaughter taught me something profound about faith. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't require theological degrees or philosophical debates. At its heart, faith is about seeing the world with fresh eyes, appreciating its beauty, and recognizing the love behind it all. Since my awakening to God's presence, I've started to notice these sacred moments everywhere, in the face of a loved one, in acts of unexpected kindness, in the resilience of the human spirit during difficult times. The world hasn't changed, but my ability to see the divine fingerprints on everyday life has expanded immeasurably. I've also found community in places I never expected. Not just in formal religious settings, but among people of all backgrounds who share this sense of something greater than themselves. I've had deep conversations about faith with my barber of 20 years, with the elderly woman who delivers meals to homebound seniors in my neighborhood, with a young nurse who cared for me during a hospital stay. These connections have enriched my life in ways my former success never could. There's a depth to these relationships, a genuine sharing of our humanity that wasn't possible when I kept everyone at arm's length with my certainty and self-sufficiency. One question I'm often asked is whether finding faith later in life has made me regret the years I spent without it? The honest answer is no. God was working in my life even when I didn't recognize it. Every experience, every relationship, every challenge was preparing me for the moment when my heart would finally be ready to open. Nothing was wasted, nothing was lost. It was all part of the journey home. I think that's an important message for anyone who comes to faith later in life. You haven't missed out. Your unique path, with all its twists and turns, has given you wisdom and perspective that enriches your faith now. As the saying goes, the path isn't straight, but it leads to the right place. Another change I've noticed is my relationship with worry. I used to be consumed by it, worrying about the future, about making the right decisions, about what others thought of me. That burden has lightened considerably. Not because I think faith magically solves all problems, but because I've experienced firsthand that we're held in a love that doesn't depend on our performance or perfection. This doesn't mean I never worry or feel anxious. I'm still human. But those feelings no longer define me or drive my decisions the way they once did. There's a peace underneath everything else, a foundation that doesn't shake even when circumstances are difficult. I found myself drawn to the simple wisdom of the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Those words have become a compass for daily living, helping me focus my energy where it can actually make a difference while surrendering the rest to God's care. This journey has also changed how I think about legacy. I used to believe legacy was about achievements, recognition, the mark you leave on the world through your work. Now, I understand that true legacy is about love, how well you've loved others and allowed yourself to be loved. Everything else is secondary. When I visit Thomas's grave, I don't think about his career accomplishments or material success. I think about his kindness, his laughter, his steadfast presence in my life through good times and bad. I think about how he made everyone feel valued simply for who they were, not what they could do for him. That's the kind of legacy I now aspire to leave.